Why, hello there. If you want to see how we completely transform this entire sad closet from this to this in just one day, keep on watching. Let's get started. Seemingly, we are getting closer and closer to finishing up all the projects that I have around this house. However, this closet has been on my bucket list for the last couple of years because my wife has certainly wanted to change this closet ever since my daughter moved into it a couple years ago. One of my favorite portions of any construction-related project is the demolition portion, especially when it doesn't involve too many tools, because all I needed was a couple hammers and a reciprocating saw to take care of the vast majority of the demolition for this project. With closets in old houses, they tend not to utilize the space as you would want. This whole area right here is basically unusable because of where the shelf is. The width is closed off. In some rooms worse than others. This one's not too bad, but we're still gonna bust it open slightly on one side to try and fit as much cabinet space as we possibly can to make it extremely usable. Let's get to it. Whether I'm demoing out a deck, a kitchen, a bathroom, or even a closet, my favorite tool is by far the reciprocating saw. It just is so vital and makes it quick work of any demolition portion, so make sure you have one of those on hand. After I remove the existing trim around our closet, I make quick work of managing to open up that space on the left side as you see here. Now, I did measure ahead of time how much space we were going to need for this opening, and the system itself is going to be approximately 69 inches, so I made sure we had at least 69.5 inches wide. The other tool that I love having on hand, if you do have one, is a multi-tool. Gets you out of some very unique circumstances and a way to cut certain areas very cleanly and easily, which the reciprocating saw is not the best at, so making sure that we have that tool on hand is also very important. Now, to be very clear, this closet system is not a load-bearing wall. The hallway wall is, however, which is the back side of this closet, but you might think that this is a load-bearing wall due to how much lumber is involved with this one overhead section, and that is because this house was built in the 1950s and everything was built extremely durable. You should have seen the kitchen soffits that I took out, which were just soffits, but the amount of lumber and framing and nails that accompanied that kitchen soffit was truly unbelievable, and apparently they just don't build them like they used to. After I got all the framing out of the way, we were left with a large sizable hole into the attic. Now, I could have covered this up with drywall, however, I decided to put something that was a little bit more beefy in, like OSB, which works out in my favor in the future because as I'm installing the cabinetry, I can nail or screw directly into this plate and have a much more secure hold than if it was just drywall. As for finishing this area off, this area certainly won't be seen for years to come. However, I still want to apply a layer of mud here so it's at least finished. And by mixing up a batch of joint compound that is a 20-minute set, it means it'll dry extremely quickly and I can sand off the excess in near the same day. That's a tight fit. All the cabinets that we're getting is from IKEA, basically because I wanted to make it as easy as possible for people to purchase if they wanted this setup. You can always find a local place near you, but this guy is very readily available and easy for anyone to purchase. So now we just put them all together. When I mean easy to purchase, I really do mean quite easy to purchase. This is their IKEA pack system, and IKEA's built-in closet software made it very easy to figure out exactly the arrangement that I wanted, and it might not be as cheap as I wanted, but inevitably it still was very easy to purchase, along with getting it the very next day after I placed my order. And also know that IKEA is not sponsoring this video in any way. I just want to make sure that whoever is watching this video can build the same exact system with ease thanks to the IKEA marketplace. Also know that if this system doesn't fit your space, you can always customize it to your exact size, or at least close to. In order to maximize the space in our closet, I had to go with two 20-inch wide systems, along with a 30-inch wide cabinet that's going to be directly in the middle of the two 20-inch units. These black plastic leveling feet are being placed at every single corner on the inside, and then there's rails that connect each one together on both the front and back side. Once these rails are in place, there are clips that you place on the back side of this rail to make sure that it is solidified and it's not going to go anywhere throughout the installation process. Same goes for the backside rail, just different clips on both the sides as well as the back panel. These tall cabinets do come with hardware, or if you are going to be placing it right up against a wall. However, in this circumstance, we are not, because we want it nice and flush to the entryway of your closet space. So just know that ahead of time, because if you don't, you might be wondering why there's a number of pieces of hardware that I didn't use in this circumstance. Our top cabinet panel has 4 protruding fasteners that fit into the hole locations at the top sides of this cabinet, and then by applying pressure on the front lip, it snaps into place. With that, we move our way to the bottom section, put that panel in, and we can move on to the next cabinet. However, the kids were quite excited to see what was going on in Isla's new closet. Can you both fit in there? Let's see. Oh, nicely done. Look at you two. Oh yeah, there's plenty of room. Babe, we have room for more children. Yeah. On second thought, we definitely don't have room for more children unless we get a whole new house. So stay tuned for future projects that don't involve more children, since you can see that I have my handfuls already. Love them. The second and third cabinets are being installed just as I did previously, with the only caveat being the middle cabinet is slightly wider. Once I have all 3 cabinets fully assembled, the kids can rejoice over the element of the new closet, and Dad can get to leveling. In a perfect world, these cabinets would be level the very first time since they're all working off of the same plane. However, that is why they have leveling feet, because the slight variances in our floors are going to be needed to be shimmed up in some locations and potentially adjusted on multiple axes. Luckily for me, all I had to do was adjust the back side because the front side was lined up and level as needed, so the back side just had to be brought up slightly on all boxes. With all of our boxes fully level, I grabbed a clamp to clamp them at the bottom along with the top in order to fasten all these cabinets together, and if they're in one cohesive piece, it's going to be a lot easier to manage than if they were all individually placed. I double check our levelness, making sure that it lines up nicely with the drywall, and then start installing a few cabinet screws at the very bottom, the middle, as well as the top of each cabinet. With our 3 cabinet boxes now fixed together, I can move on to shimming. Shimming is also placed at the very bottom, middle, and top section on both sides of our cabinetry. And with all of our cabinetry fully leveled, the main thing I'm considering when doing my shimming is to make sure that those cabinets are lining up as even as possible with the drywall that's right adjacent to it. Our drywall certainly isn't perfect, but as long as it's not too out of whack, it's going to be a lot easier to manage the trimming portion of this project if it's as close to even as possible. I cut off all excess shims with my multi-tool, going around the entire perimeter, and with that taken care of, we can move on to trimming our closet cabinetry. We're using a standard paint grade MDF which matches the existing trim around the entire room, and fastening all of our trim down with a 16 gauge finishing nailer. The trim for the sides of our cabinetry was quite easy and straightforward to install. However, the top portion of our trim was a bit more difficult and cumbersome due to the fact that I didn't quite understand what would be the best practice for this small little segment of space. What I decided to do was to implement some shims at every single roof framing joist and then tack them down in place to make sure they didn't move with my finishing nailer. This way our trim has something to butt up against. The only problem is that this space from one side to the other is not even. We have about 1.25 inches on one side and 1 even on the other, and that does make it a bit more cumbersome because I have to accommodate that via our trim. And the only easy way I know of doing this was to draw a nice straight line down that section by making a mark on both sides and running that through our table saw. Now I have done this before and I'm comfortable doing this without a table saw fence, but just be careful if you're taking on this type of cut in your own remodeling endeavors. With our shims already in place, this makes it very easy to nail in place, and I can move on to some caulking. The caulking that I'm using in this application is the DAP Alex Plus product. Now this is a really nice product specifically because you're able to paint it within a 30-minute time period, and that's really nice because if I'm trying to get this product done in a short, orderly fashion, the less waiting around for drying is always preferable. And as I'm waiting around for our caulk to be dry, I can move on to some cabinet drawer assembly. These are obviously also from IKEA, and I'll make sure and have links for all these materials and tools listed in the video description below if you are interested in checking it out for yourself. With the construction nature of these drawers, I did find that they seem to be quite sturdy. I don't know how they're going to last over time because there are a few areas where they're using plastic hardware, which I certainly think that it would be better if they had just a standard metal piece, such as these pieces right here, along with these plastic inserts on the back side. All very unimpressive, and yes, we will see how they last over time, but for right now, they look great. And they actually feel great as well, but I can only see after a few years of my daughter and son being a little bit too rough with them, they potentially could be degrading quicker than imagined. With our cabinet boxes assembled, we can move on to our drawer slides. These are very easy to install, it's just a matter of the type of spacing you want in between each drawer. But the drawers themselves simply hook on the back panel with a small clip on the front section, and that's basically all is needed for the installation of each one of these drawers. That same exact process is replicated over and over and over again until we have a nice little 4-drawer system. Now the 5th set of slides I'm actually using as a slide out shelf, so my daughter can put any of her sunglasses, necklaces, and so forth in that area, and then right above that I'll be placing a shelf that you can have even more fun accoutrement or whatever my daughter so pleases in this section. The only thing is that this is installed differently since this is a shelf and not a slide out system. All these shelves have shelf support pegs that are plastic, but they also have a small metal screw in the section where you'll be placing it into the cabinet support side. Don't know if this is any better than your standard metal peg, but they worked just fine, and each one of these shelves fit nice and snugly the very first time. Also know that there are multiple shelf options available. I just chose the glass version because it was a nicer, more aesthetically pleasing look from my perspective, and it was only an extra $5 a shelf. Immediately after installing the shelves though, we can move on to our closet rails for all of our clothes hanging needs, and this simply is installed with a bracket that's being placed on each side of each cabinet, and then our rod is squeezed in between the two brackets that secures it very nicely and snugly. Now some of these actually might be a little too snug since I tried to get one out and I snapped off the bracket clip, but I think that that's just more user error since I was trying it for the first time and I was probably just being a little too aggressive with it. However, with all of our rods in place, we can move on to some painting since our caulk is fully dry at this point, and after painting is taken care of, I'm proud to say that we are done with this closet makeover. We just need to fill it up properly, and if you can remember what it looked like originally to what it is now. Quite the transformation in such a short amount of time, and to be quite honest and fully upright with you guys is that this did take me 2 days to do. However, the demo and patchwork really only took 3 hours, and the rest of the time was taken up by the assembly portion the very next day, which took a grand total of 6 hours. So you're easily able to do this within a 1-day span, so hopefully you guys are up for the challenge. But no matter what, thanks for watching, and this is truly one beautiful, sexy beast of a closet makeover. Oh yeah,